Hi, and welcome to this Sing by Sight interview. Today I am thrilled to be interviewing Izzy Chase. Izzy is a past student of mine and has now made huge strides in the music business. Oh my word, she's working for some top artists, and I'm thrilled she has actually found time out from her hugely heavy schedule, which we will talk about, to be interviewed with me today. Izzy, welcome to Sing by Sight.
Hello.
Hello.
Such a pleasure to be here. So thanks for having me.
Oh, pleasure, Izzy, pleasure. Now, straight on with my questions. How did you start as a singer?
Oh, it's a good question. Actually, Emer, I started, I'm from quite a musical family. My mum was a cellist, and was my sister as well. So I actually started on the piano as a kid, and I kind of went through it for a little while, which gave me some great musicality, of course, but I always wanted to be a singer. So finally got my own way when I went to secondary school by doing these extra singing lessons in my spare time, and then went to college and did a performing arts course. And from there, just decided that the singing part of it was really what I loved the most. So I decided to I joined a little girl group at one point, and I was working with some writers and just kind of doing it part-time, until I kind of started doing the covers thing, and then decided to do my degree in music and just go for it full time. So yeah.
Fantastic. Me. Who are your influences?
My influences, funnily enough, I used to be really into pop when I was younger, just general across the board pop. And then I was introduced to an album from Stax Records, and I went down the soul and Motown route, sort of in my teens until my early 20s, pretty heavily. So my influences, of course, the absolute queen, Aretha Franklin, has got to be up there. But actually, I think my male favourite vocalist is Otis Redding. And so anything in that kind of era, those artists were really how I started to lean into my musicality more in my late teens. And anything based on soulful voices became my passion. Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. So you said you studied piano. Obviously, you read a bit of music. I mean, I'm going to talk about sight singing a bit later on, but obviously you started reading music then when you were playing the piano. That was the beginning of your reading.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I did up until perhaps grade 4. I was never really good, to be honest. I never practiced enough. But, but I did.
It's always the way.
Yeah,
The practicing with the piano, it's always the way.
It is. It's like, you got to do your piano practice. No, I don't want to do it. But yeah, I actually did get introduced to reading music a little bit on the piano, of course, up until about grade 4, and I did a few exams. And then didn't really touch it again until later on when I started studying vocals more specifically, and had to pick it up again, and it had been many years. So it was a little foundation for me to start on the piano, but it was a very different ball game when it became vocally heavy. So yeah.
And you say you went on to do a degree. So what did you do there? Where did you go, and why did you go there, and all that sort of stuff?
Well, I actually went to study my degree at the age of 25. So I took a few years out and started singing in the covers industry. Once I left college and kind of decided that's what I wanted to do, I took a few years in the covers industry doing, function bands and that kind of stuff, until I realised that I just wanted to further my skill set so that I could be more professional. I wanted to know what I was talking about amongst musicians.
Yeah.
And I was starting to feel like I'd reached my ceiling in that department. And so decided, I grew up in Kent, and I decided to have a look around at some courses and moved to London and studied a degree at the ICMP in Kilburn, which is actually where we met, Emer.
Yeah, it's where
those
we
years
met.
ago.
You're one of my students.
Yes,
Star students.
Absolutely. So, and I think it was just the right course for me, and at the right time. So that's what I decided to do. Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? That idea of hitting a ceiling. That's a fantastic way of putting it, actually, because that is literally what happens. You get to a level and you think, I know there's more out there, but I don't know how to access it. I don't know how to take the next stage, whatever it is actually. But it is true with music as well, isn't it? Sometimes you do need somebody just to peel back a few layers and say to you, this is where you go now. Is that what you found at college as well?
Absolutely, absolutely. I think I was just looking for something more and I didn't really know what to do. I knew, as you say, there was something else out there. There was a bigger world of music and opportunities, and I couldn't quite place where I was supposed to be. I never had the full drive to be a pop star, but I wanted to sing. And so looking into these courses of, especially with contemporary music in a world that I was interested in, and finding the ICMP stroke the Institute, it felt like it was somewhere that I could just be to explore a little bit more of the music industry. And then it was when I got there that I could see all of these other paths opening up and all these skill sets available that I could kind of absorb and then create my career from there. So
and it's interesting you said you didn't want to be a pop star. That's really interesting, because you've gone on now to be a backing singer really, and to really forge an amazing career there. How did you get into that world?
Well, I mean, it kind of all followed on quite organically from when I went to study, because whilst I was studying at the Institute, I found my love for harmony in the ensemble groups, and I got so into it that by the third year, when I was choosing what to do my dissertation on, I found that I was really interested in vocal blend, and whether it was heavily genetically influenced, or if you could use technique to change it, all these kinds of things. So I studied overtones of vocals, and I got an overtone analyzer, and I got really geeky about it and started doing so by the time I left, I knew that I was just really passionate about voices blending, harmony, ensemble work. And so, to be honest, quite naturally I had offered my skills as a new backing vocalist to my peers at college. So I was out doing bits and pieces with them, and at that point I knew that that's a direction that I wanted to go in. And so alongside making sure that I was working in the function scene, which I still do and still love, I was just kind of offering myself as a backing vocalist. Anyone ever need BVs, just let me know. I'll come and jump on. Or if anyone needs any arrangements doing, because I'd picked up that skill set as well, let me know. And I think just organically over time, I started doing little bits and pieces for more and more people. Until I met a fixer, and that fixer, we just got on really well, and he could see that I could probably do a job, to a high enough standard, and put me on my first job. And then there was nothing again for another 6 months, and then one audition, and I didn't get that, and then another few months, and just gradually over time started to build up a reputation and be recommended for certain things. And so it wasn't just a kind of all of a sudden I could just open the door and stroll into this pop world. It really was a gradual, quite natural process for me, but knowing where my passion was.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think lots of people don't see the grafting that goes on. And that's kind of what it is, isn't it? You're working away. They see where you are and they think, gosh, I'd love to do that. And you think, yes, but behind me is a trail of hard work, hard work.
Absolutely. I mean, I left the Institute. We're talking, I completed my degree in 2012, and here we are in 2021. So, 9 years is a small amount of time in a career, of course, but I didn't just get here in 6 months, know. And I still like to think that I'm kind of at the beginning of my career, in certain ways. There's always more things to do. So it is definitely a journey. And I think that people just need to stick at it, have your vision, and just keep going. Keep working on it.
I mean, I knew that about you when you were a student, Izzy. I'm not being funny. I knew you were a worker. You are a hard worker, which is fantastic, because that's what you need, and you need it in every discipline. You need it in your timekeeping, you need it in your appearance, you need it in your skill sets of singing, and and then obviously sight singing. Whatever your skill set, you just need that kind of element of, I'm going to work at this because it's something I want. I'd hate people to look at singers and look at where you are and think, oh, I'd love to do that. Can I do it? And you just think, just be aware. There's a lot of work that goes to get that finished product.
There really is. And I think you're right. You know, sometimes you see these things going, especially in the world that we are now, which is everything is so instant and so digital, that you think it's very accessible for everybody in a way. But as you say, it doesn't come without kind of the dedication and a whole different group of skill sets that you need in order to do one job. So yeah, you're 100% right. Yeah.
Talking about one job and everything, tell me what type of work are you doing at the moment, or, you know, kind of a few jobs, the type of things that you're getting up to now as a backing vocalist?
Yes, so we just 2 days ago recorded for the Brits. So I'm lucky enough to call myself one of Dua Lipa's backing vocalists. And I've been with Dua since the end of 2019, when I got first called in to do a TV job, and then they were kind enough to offer me some the rest of the campaign, which of course has gone a little bit left field, out the window, like most music for this last year. But fingers crossed, we're kind of slowly but surely and safely getting back to it. So yes, I was just at the Brits with Dua. She picked up 2 awards, which was amazing and unbelievably well deserved. She is a grafter, let me tell you. If there's anyone that works hard, her work ethic is absolutely incredible. So,
that's great to hear it from you. That's really
honestly, incredible. And the whole team as well. The whole team behind the scenes, everything is amazing. And then a couple of weeks ago, we also did the Oscars. So we did the Elton John's Oscars.
I saw you on that. I was actually screaming at the telly. Okay, I was just so thrilled for you. That is just such a top job. Honestly, tell me, was it good fun?
Yeah, I have to say, I mean, it was one of those moments where we all just had to pinch ourselves a couple of times, and I'm not ashamed to say that I cried.
Good, because that's good. That is a tremendous release of, like I said, all the hard work. This is just, I'm so proud of you. I'm pleased for you, really am.
Thank you. What an experience. I mean, we shot ours in London. Obviously we weren't able to go to the States, but we shot ours in London. Elton was amazing. Dua, as always, was amazing. But it was just being able to be part of something again, where the music felt like it just brought the room to life. And we've had such a little amount of that. It was almost double the amount of appreciation that I would have had anyway, because of that, you know, and just hearing an icon that you've grown up listening to, and you know the amount of cassettes that we had in our family car when I was a kid, and you know Elton was just blaring away, and you just think, you know, fast forward a few years, and here we are in the same room performing one of his tracks. It's like, wow,
gosh, it must have been so amazing. Emotional, and like you say, because of the lack of music at the moment, so the impact that must have had on you personally. And I can tell you also, I watched it, and the impact on me watching it was amazing as well. I mean, I'm not sure when people will be watching this video. Obviously it's going out and it'll be out on the internet forever, but at the moment we're still in the middle of the global pandemic, and things haven't quite got back to normal yet. So so obviously, like you say, the impact of being able to perform must have just been amazing. And yes, Elton is, so I think he's somebody who's in most people's lives, isn't he? His music. I
know. Imagine that as an artist, knowing that whatever kind of decade you were born in, or whatever kind of upbringing you've somehow probably been influenced by his music or his voice or something that he's brought to this world. And just incredible, really incredible. But I sort of snuck around just quickly for his sound check for what was he singing? I think it was Tiny Dancer. And I just to hear it just across the room, just while he was practicing, just checking the mic and the piano, and you just think, and it was just streams of tears running through my face. It was an incredible experience. So there are a couple of things that I've just done recently, but lots of lovely bits like that, and hopefully we'll be back out on the road at some point very soon. The tour campaign, although hasn't happened yet, is still scheduled to go ahead with Dua, so fingers crossed everything will now run to plan. But
now that's live work, so can you just talk a little bit about any studio work you've done?
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a remote studio at home, so I can now do a lot of bits and pieces at home. And often it's just layering BVs and vocal arrangements for people that might not have that skill set down.
Yeah.
So I can do that quite a lot. Top lining, demoing, those kinds of things I love to do. But I also work with the amazing Trevor Horn, who is an icon as well.
Another icon. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been with Trevor now for I think since 2017, 16 or 17, and a lot of his work is studio based. So he has a couple of studios in London, of course, but he's also got a studio at home where we do. I think every vocal I've done has been at his home studio.
Right.
So, for example, I might demo for him to pitch to other artists to sing on some of his tracks, or quite often I'll be layering backing vocals for him to kind of have, in the background of some of his records. So for example, I think he put out last year, the years kind of blurring in at the moment.
It's a bit weird. Yeah.
It might be 2019 actually, but Rod Stewart re-released some material, and he and Trevor reproduced that album. So there's a few little oohs and ahs in the background if you listen very carefully for me, which was amazing. So yeah, little variety of studio work, either in other people's studios or at home. Kind of do as well.
And when you're singing with other singers in a group, you mentioned before about when you're at college, going on about blending and all that sort of stuff, all those vocal features.
Yeah.
Are you good at that? Or, I assume you are good at that, but the idea of blending with other backing vocalists, it is so important, isn't it?
Oh, incredibly. Yeah. I think it's something, as I say, because I found an interest in it at university, and I studied some techniques that would help, just general blending technique stuff. I kind of pride myself on trying to blend really well with lots of different singers.
Yeah.
And perhaps maybe luckily I've got a blendable voice. Can we say blendable?
Yeah, you can say it.
Is that a word?
We can now. We can say it.
Blendability, that could be a thing on the side.
Just stretching it a bit now, okay?
Okay, cool. Blendable it is. I might have a slightly blendable voice, but honestly, I think I just naturally try to listen to what kind of tones that we have with however many singers there are, and fill a gap. That's kind of what I try and do.
Brilliant.
And some people find it easy. You can learn to do it. I really do think you can learn to do it. Some people just do it naturally, but yeah, it's something that you can use technique to help for sure.
Yeah. Brilliant. Now, obviously, I want to kind of swing this around to talking about sight singing.
Yeah.
So, has there ever been an instance in your career where your sight singing skills have been used and have been really important?
Yeah, I have to say, this is one of the craziest things that happened, was because I actually learned how to my initial sight singing skills from you, Emer. Thank you very much. And I struggled with it because, as I say, I learned how to read music, and I had some general music knowledge from playing piano. But it's very different taking that out of your fingers and putting that into your voice, because you've got no keys to play or strings to pluck or whatever. And so I struggled with it, and I struggled on. But apart from having an incredible teacher and course, aside, kind of kept going with it. And I'm glad that I did, because a couple of years after I graduated, I got a call for a tour with the Ball and Bow tour. I think it was their first together tour, I think.
Yeah.
And when we arrived, I kept thinking, we haven't been sent this material. Where's all the audio tracks? It's a couple of days before the rehearsal, and it was quite typical to have a vocal rehearsal before we got put in with the band. So we were due to go into these vocal rehearsals. There were 2 other backing vocalists. And so anyway, we turned up on the day, and I thought, I haven't really been able to learn anything in advance, so see how this goes. Walked in, and there was a pianist and 4 stools and 3 stools, 3 music stands, 3 pads of lots of material, and 3 pencils just sat there.
Welcome. And they hadn't warned you? They hadn't said
No. So it must have been a little oversight. Now,
That's a big oversight. That's not a lit. Anyway, moving on.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, either that or I just didn't get the memo. And luckily, perhaps whoever booked it maybe knew that I could read a bit. I don't know. But for whatever reason, I wasn't expecting it. And walked in and there it was. It was like the scene of terror. And just opened the door. It was like a creaking slow door and there were 3 music stands.
And then just close it and walk away. Not my gig.
Honestly, no. But I have to say that I was so glad of my sight reading training at that point, because I'm telling you, the speed that we had to go through this music on that day, you know, and as much of a lovely atmosphere it was, and they were very patient, and of course, you know, there was no issue, but I felt so much calmer knowing that I could do it. It would have been a nightmare if I couldn't read at all, honestly. So that was kind of jumping in at the deep end, you know, a couple of years after I'd graduated, I think. And so that's one major example of when it's coming useful.
But it's fantastic though, because you're kind of saying, you know, it makes you more calm. Just, I mean, you might be presented with music and you might think this is tricky, but at least I kind of know what I need to do. I know the process I need to go through to sight sing this piece of music.
100%. And I think you don't, you know, I'm not the world's best sight reader. I've got enough skills to get me through, I don't even know how to describe it, I guess up to intermediate level, I suppose. And I might be a little bit slower than other people, and that's absolutely fine. But knowing that I can look at some music, find out where the pitch is, find out what's going to trip me up, look at some rhythms, whatever it is, and kind of just take it to pieces rather than looking at something and just seeing just scribble.
Yes.
A language that you don't understand, perhaps.
Yeah.
You know what it's like, you know, it's if you know a tiny bit of another language, say you're going to Spain, there's a big difference with knowing, if you know, even if you know the very basic language, than nothing. There's a huge difference. And I find it's kind of similar with sight reading and music.
Yeah, that's a really good analogy. And it's interesting actually, because you said, you know, you'd call yourself intermediate level. And that's fantastic. I think lots of singers think I need to be brilliant at sight singing, you know, and I'm not being funny. The work I do when I'm, you know, and I've stood next to you on a couple of movie soundtrack sessions, that's tricky stuff. And it can get even trickier.
Of course.
But not everybody has to be that level. Sometimes the work you do, the world you're in, you just think, you know what, this is what I need to know, and I know enough, and I'm really good in my world. Not everybody has to be able to read, you know, unbelievable vocal parts. That's not necessary. You know, I'm only saying this because I think some people think, oh, if I'm not brilliant, there's no point me learning, and I don't think that's the case, is it?
Absolutely not the case whatsoever. I think just having, it's the same with anything in life. If you can, even if your goal is to get the basics, you're going to notice how much that helps you, even just in peace of mind when you're walking into a room.
It's that calmness, honestly, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like, I can do this. I can take a breath. I can take this apart. I can just look at the melody. I can just look at a rhythm or I can isolate something. That having that, even the basics of that will create such a difference in a session.
And I'm so pleased you say that, you know, and you break it down, say, oh, look at the rhythm, look at the melody, because I mean that's the way I teach, and that's what we do on Sing by Sight, and that's the way I've taught you. Just break it down and just turn it into something you can cope with. And also something else that I've always said is look for the positives on a piece of music. Look for what you know. Don't just look at it and let blind panic go in. Just think, no, I know that. And because that's what happens, isn't it? It's that kind of fear takes over singers, and then they're never going to give a good vocal performance, I guess, are they?
Absolutely, because you get stuck in your own head. But you're 100% right. It's looking for the positives. It's unbelievable how quickly you start to notice the same patterns. And it quickly dissolves from being a page full of stuff you swear you don't understand to oh, actually that's just repeated 6 times. And it's fine. You know, it's so quick how that happens. So,
Yeah. And I think you've, if I'm right, so you've gone on to using your reading skills and everything, doing vocal arrangements and all, branching out into doing all of that as well, I think, haven't you, Izzy?
Yeah, I have actually, because I think it's just another angle that you can use. Some singers do everything by ear, and they create the most wonderful arrangements.
Yeah.
Some people like to double check that ear with music knowledge, I suppose. So then maybe kind of breaking it down and saying, oh, have I got the root? Is the third covered? Is the fifth covered? Okay, great. And just checking for holes or gaps or something they might have missed. And some people, of course, arrange from paper.
Yeah.
And it's always done from kind of a theoretic basis. But I'm sort of someone who likes to do a little bit of everything. I'm a bit of a checker. I do some stuff by ear, and then knowing that I can see it written on a page and writing out little patterns or dots and seeing where the gaps are for me really works. Yeah. So it's been super useful. And also some other people prefer to see stuff written than they do by ear. So if I'm working with someone who's that way inclined, it's really helpful for me to go, oh, it will be this, 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 and this, and you start on the A, and then da-da-da, and that's you. And that person's then sorted in their world because they get to kind of have that communication. Yeah. Whereas somebody else, it's like, well, it's just the ear. Okay, well, it's this, and and you can just give them something by ear. So it's great for me just to have a few different ways of approaching how to vocal arrange.
Yeah, and being super flexible in a way, aren't you? It's that level of learning, or that way of taking on information. Everybody's different, and you're able to appeal to all of them and deal with all of them as well. That's fantastic. Now, finally, Izzy, do you have any tips for singers who are starting off in the business?
Oh, wow. I mean, probably a ton. I think I'll circle back to the thing I was saying earlier about having your vision in mind. And
that's a super point.
It's just constantly having that in mind, because we can get distracted or disappointed, or things can turn a bit left. And I think if you're constantly reminding yourself as to what you want to do and why, just keep coming back to that. It's like if someone's on a journey of trying to run a marathon, but they keep just running for the biscuit cupboard. If you just keep that marathon in mind, then you might just go to the biscuit cupboard ever so slightly less. Often you're like, actually, it's not quite in line with my vision. It's not quite in line with my goals. So I think majorly find where your passion is, find that vision, and just keep it in mind with all of your actions. And if you can just do something, no matter how small, every day towards that vision, even if it's an email that you need to send, or something you need to research, or a little bit of sight singing practice, or whatever it is, anything small, just keep it in line with what your vision is. That's really important. I think so. My dog is starting to snore in the background. If it gets a bit loud, just
gorgeous. Oh, fantastic.
Otis, he's getting on a bit now, you see, he's 13.
Oh, he's not inspired with what you're saying. He's really not interested. I've heard it all before, is what he's saying.
Absolute snore fest over there. I'm sorry about that. So if there's anything else. Also, I think something I've noticed a lot more in this last couple of years is it's not quite enough anymore to just be a great singer, or just be a great sight reader or musician even. You need to think of yourself as a bit of a brand, as a business. And we're not always represented by agents anymore. You don't necessarily have someone constantly looking after you, or booking things for you, or promoting you, or dealing with something that comes up that might be a bit tricky business wise. I think as much research as you can do, as much webinars that you can join in on what your rights are, what you need to be doing in terms of promotion, online presence, all of that stuff comes hand in hand with being a working singer. And I try to kind of inspire people with this quite often, because it's really important. And as creatives, a lot of creatives don't always like to do that stuff. And that stuff is what kind of gets them down a bit. So I just want to sing, I just want to play, I just want to write music, I just want to perform. Yes, and fingers crossed at some point, you can employ someone to do all of this and manage your diary and take care of everything. But if you're starting out and trying to get into the business, try and learn as much as you can, because even when you do have someone maybe down the line being able to help you out with it and take on some of the workload, you still want to have a full understanding of how this business works, about how this industry works, and knowledge is power. So
that's a great tip, actually. Just make yourself aware, and just be aware that you are a business, you know, a little limited company yourself, and that's how you have to approach it. It's a job, isn't it? Again, it's a job, that kind of comes back to, don't just look at the end product, the glamour side of it. It's, you know, really do acknowledge all the skill sets you need, whether it's, you know, making sure you're on time for stuff, or your diary keeping, or, you know, vocal skills that you need as well. Absolutely. Understanding this whole skill set to deliver yourself as a little limited company.
Absolutely. And knowing your worth as well, and learning when to say no.
Yeah.
Those two things go hand in hand, and especially perhaps in a time more recently where there's been less work available for a lot of people. I worry that some people might be exploited a little bit, and I'm not trying to put people off the industry. I'm sure it's the same in every industry. There's always going to be people trying to save a buck here and there. And it's just really important to stand strong in what your gut feeling is saying about something. Knowing your worth and knowing when to say no are going to be really important. And it's a scary thing to think about, but it's so important, not for you only for yourself, but I think just the industry as a whole. You know, we all represent each other in some way or another, right?
And for mental well-being as well. You know, you've just got to be true to your hearts, as you say, see that vision, and that's your goal.
Absolutely.
Oh, fantastic. Well, Izzy, thank you so much for chatting to me today. Thank you so much for taking time out of your crazy schedule. I know you're super busy, and you're just a wonderful singer, and I'm just so thrilled with all the unbelievable work you're doing. So thank you for taking time out to chat with me today.
Honestly, my pleasure. It's all my pleasure.
And hopefully someday soon we'll get to meet up.
We will.
Yes, marvellous. Take care, Izzy. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Emer. Bye.
Bye.